Bad Bunny called out tourists in his latest video, Turista. And you know what? He's not wrong. But it's about much more than that in that video. In fact, it really touches at the attitudes that US travelers bring with them when they go to Puerto Rico, to the Caribbean, and the inequality behind it all. Let's dig in. So let's break it down. What is Bad Bunny really saying in his video Turista, which came out on February 14? What's the message behind it? And what does it tell us about tourism and entitlement in tropical destinations that we use as our vacation spots? So in Turista, you see tourists leaving a villa in Ocean Park, which is a neighborhood in San Juan. And I even believe that the choice of Ocean Park was deliberate. I'll explain in a little bit. So 4 young tourists with their backpacks are leaving, and then here comes Bad Bunny, who's supposed to be the cleaning staff, and he opens up, the lockbox, goes into the house, and it's a complete mess, right? You've got cake that's half eaten, you've got decorations scattered all over the place, you've got trash on the floor, you've got broken wine glasses on the tabletop counter in the kitchen. It's just a complete mess. And he begins to gather all the mess in a big trash bag, slowly going through it as he sings really powerful lyrics. So him coming in and cleaning up the scene has a double meaning. It's not just about cleaning up a messy place that tourists left behind in a foreign-owned house, by the way, that is up for short-term rental. It's also the fact that it gets us to think, who cleans up after tourists every single time? Tourists come mindless, they leave their mess, they leave all their troubles behind at home, but then they bring their mess to the destinations and leave waste behind, and the person that's cleaning up after all of the debris are locals. And the debris isn't just the physical waste that you see, it's also the impact that people have on destinations. At least that's what I'm seeing in this video. It's really, really smartly made. For example, he opens the fridge and there's like a piece of cake left, and that has to be tossed away. There's a whole cake even on the table at one point in the living room that he has to toss away. A lot of trash, and you're thinking, well, who's handling all this waste, and why is all this waste being generated by a tourist? And here's the thing, after these tourists left and he's cleaning up, he even goes on the balcony, and it's a beautiful view of the sea, and it's on an outdoor terrace, but yet there's a mess all over the table. Yeah. And so then after he's done cleaning up the place, he's setting it up really nicely for the next set of tourists who are coming. And as soon as he leaves, in fact, there's a car that rolls in and it's blasting reggaeton, and these tourists come out of the car with their strollers and they're ready to go into the house. So it's like another set of tourists coming into this neighborhood. Here's the kicker. This time, the second tourists that come in are black. The first ones were white. And I think there definitely is a message there, which is that it's not really a race thing. It's a Western attitude thing. I think that was really smart of him to do that. And then this black couple goes into the villa. And later on, towards the very end of the video, after the credits, you see that they're enjoying themselves at night in this villa. The lights are on in Ocean Park. And then the lights go out. There's a power cut. And they're like, what the F, And it's basically alluding to the many electricity and power cut crises that Puerto Ricans have been suffering for years. And so it's really ironic, that they're now suffering the same thing that locals suffer. But here's what I want to dig into as well, is the lyrics. The lyrics that add to this whole scene in the video are really powerful. In my life, you were like a tourist. You only saw the best of me and not what I suffered. You left without knowing the why of my wounds and my pain, because you felt like it wasn't yours to cure or to fix. You just came to have a good time. And yeah, we had a good time. Like, wow, that is a really powerful analogy. All too often, tourists who come from the US mainland and go to the Caribbean, for example, and to tropical destinations, just are there for a good time. They don't want to know about the problems of that place. They're not there for that. They're there to have a good time. They pass through, And he's making an analogy to his love life. It's like a double entendre. So it's like he's talking about it like it's a romance. Or you only saw the good of me and you didn't want the bad parts because you felt like it wasn't yours to fix. And it's really similar to tourists who are oblivious to the full context of destinations. Remember what I talked about in the previous video about the Dominican Republic and the importance of leaving behind a single narrative of the Dominican Republic, that many truths can be, in fact, in place at the same time. Well, it's the same thing, right? It's the same concept. And so Bad Bunny is using this double entendre of a love life versus the tourist who passes through the island, doesn't want to know what the context is and what the island people are suffering there, what they've been through, the gentrification, ongoing, neo-colonialist approach to Puerto Rico, all of these things, the wealthy taking over a lot of the lands and a lot of the beaches. In fact, there's a huge pushback on the beaches being privatized in Puerto Rico, and there's a whole bunch of activists who are going after that, which I've been following from a distance, and it's just incredible to see what they've done. If you want me to break down what the whole beach situation is in the Caribbean and how some islands are losing their beaches versus others having managed to maintain it despite the resorts, then I can definitely do that. Let me know in the comments. Anyways, back to Bad Bunny. So this video is so layered and sends a really clear message. It's in Ocean Park as well, which is one of the first, one of the earliest neighborhoods in San Juan to be gentrified. It's right by a beautiful beach. In fact, I realized afterwards that I've actually stayed in Ocean Park. And at the time, I wasn't even aware of all these issues in Puerto Rico, but it was owned by a lady who was of Spanish descent and had been there for many, many years. Yeah, she had a villa in Ocean Park that she turned into a guest house, a hotel, a mini hotel, upscale. And it was right by the beach when you walk through the neighborhood. And much of that neighborhood is turned into short-term rentals. And it just makes you think, like, what is my role? What is our role in this dynamic, that we're being a part of on islands where people are being pushed out of their own territories and don't have a choice but to go along with the tourism narrative of having to clean up after people, having these low-wage jobs and not being able to empower themselves. There's so much in there. I highly recommend you go watch it. So what can we do as travelers? Again, as you know, that is what I talk about here on Tourism Lens. How can we not be part of this neo-colonialist approach to tourism? How can we do better for folks in these destinations that we get to visit, that we have the privilege to stay in? For me, what stood out the most out of this whole video isn't just about good behavior and whatnot, but really it was, to me, what stood out was the waste. We absolutely must be mindful of our environmental impact. In other words, avoid creating unnecessary waste. Don't bring any plastics with you to the Caribbean, for the love of the Lord. Bring reusable water bottles, very easy to do. In fact, it will even save you from buying water at the airport. Especially in islands like Puerto Rico or countries like the Dominican Republic, where there's no powerful recycling program in place. I mean, that just means that all the waste that you create on your vacation goes to a landfill or it ends up in the ocean, and we definitely don't need that, especially in a time of climate crisis. Conserve water and energy. It's really important to be conscious of the flow of what you're using. When you're staying in a short-term rental in a local neighborhood, you're taking away the resources from residents. When a neighborhood turns completely into short-term rentals, well, now you're part of irresponsible tourism, and you got to be really careful about what you're encouraging, because then you become part of gentrification. My advice is always, if you can, stay in a locally owned boutique hotel or guest house. There are plenty options, including in Puerto Rico. Be respectful of people who come to clean after you when you are in a short-term rental, if you must stay in one, and tip generously. The same goes for hotel rooms. Also, understand the local history of the place before you go there. Spend time researching or reading about the place that you're visiting. You've got to understand the struggles that local communities may be facing, whether it's gentrification, whether it's impacts of tourism, environmental impacts. Just have a little clue of what's going on so that you can make better decisions while you're there. When you're visiting destinations that are experiencing rising property prices and changes due to tourism, like Puerto Rico, you've got to be aware that many locals may be struggling because of these shifts, and your decisions matter even more in such places. Participate in these conversations, talk to people around you when you're visiting, and ask them how it's impacting them. The aim should be to have tourism become less exploitative, more sustainable for the residents of the places that we visit. But if we don't even want to know about it and we bury our heads in the sand, just like Bad Bunny's song says, only wanting to see the good side, well, it's only going to get worse. And then what affects one area of the world, you can be sure that that's also going to affect us. It's just also the right thing to do. So Bad Bunny didn't just make another catchy viral song or an emotional song. It is also a message, and it is something to think about. Because every time we go and visit places, these are places in which people actually live. It's their home, it's their heritage. And believe it or not, we play a huge part in the economy that is tourism, a multi-trillion-dollar economy. Everyone thinks it has nothing to do with me, but yes, it does. Every economic decision you make matters. So let's continue this conversation in the comments. What do you think about Bad Bunny's latest video, Turista? What is the message that struck you the most? And how do you think there's a solution to making people more aware that places are much more than their vacation destinations? And be sure to like, share, and check out my previous videos on this conscious tourism topic so that YouTube can also pick up on the algorithm and we can reach more people with this message. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next episode here at Tourism Lens every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Have a good one, guys.